back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to Nicole Salceda. Nicole has accomplished quite a bit in just 7 years in business. And yes, 7 years is more than a minute. But I have to tell you, in talking with Nicole, I really think she has accomplished and learned things in 7 years that when I think back, took me 15 or 20 years to get a grip on. Nicole left her job as an elementary school teacher to become the sought-after interior designer she is today. What started as a handful of clients quickly became a rapidly growing portfolio of homes in her signature warm minimalist style. Nicole and team, each member handpicked for their talent, work closely to create inspiring spaces. They assemble elements that are old, new, handmade, and thrifted for homes that are understated but far from boring. Each refined detail is a testament to Nicole's distinct penchant for bringing a room together, a testament to her eye for pretty. And Nicole shared with me that she's a longtime listener of the podcast. And so I asked her some of the things that she learned. And I think that if you're new to the podcast, this will serve as a pretty good example of how when you listen to all of the information that the fabulous guests bring to the podcast, how if you actually put them into action, they really can impact your business and catapult it so much faster, right? We have nearly 900 episodes in our catalog, so I encourage you to go back and listen to the topics that interest you the most. Basically, the areas in your business that you're challenged by the most, right? I know it can sound overwhelming, but remember, there is a very easy, simple way to find out where you should start with that back catalog, and that's to take my designer quiz. Go to LuAnnNigara.com/quiz. When you take this quiz, it will reveal to you where you are in your business journey from a business acumen perspective, okay? So I've had designers that have been in business 20 years and come out with a category of newbie designer or rising designer. And I want to say to you, don't cry in a puddle when you get your result if it's not what you expected. Okay, just put on your big girl or boy panties and do the things. Because when you get the results of the quiz, I give you, based on where you're at from a business perspective, the 5 things to do today to impact your business, the 5 things to do this week to impact your business, and the 5 things to do this month to impact your business. And you also get 5 podcasts to start with. So go to LuAnnNigara.com/quiz. All right. Get some valuable information that will help you improve your business today. All right. Now let's meet Nicole and see how she did it. Hi, Nicole. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation because, we were just chatting and there's like 20 directions I can take this conversation in. And I'm excited to explore at least a couple of them with you. But you told me a little tiny story. You said, that you listened to the podcast and that you were actually so sweet in thanking me for all the lessons that you've gotten over the years in listening to the podcast. And then you shared a little story with me that you said you would tell us. Tell us a story again, please.
Yes, I am a big time fan, LuAnn. So thank you again. I've learned a lot from you and all of your guests. And, just a little background on myself. I am a former elementary school teacher, so design is definitely my second life. And I've been really fortunate to have had two careers that I'm both equally passionate about, which has been amazing.
Mm.
When I first started and I jumped, you know, the bridge, I walked over the bridge into interior design. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I thought I was doing things right. I was a solopreneur. I was wearing all of the hats. And what I thought I was doing right, turns out I was not doing so right. So things like, charging my clients, furniture to my own personal credit card and
Oh, you didn't tell me
um,
that part.
oh, no, no, terrible things. And I was like, oh, they'll pay me later, right? I'll collect payment later, not tracking my time, all of the things, all of the horror stories you hear
Mm,
that
yeah.
you don't want to do in the beginning. So I did them all. I learned my lesson. My biggest lesson was I remember there was a point where I was sitting with my therapist. I love my therapist. I love mentorship. And I said, I have racked up $15,000 in credit card debt for this company that I was just starting to get off of the ground. And I was so distraught over it. I had not told my husband, I had not told anyone about it. And she said, first, you need to tell your husband. That will, take a huge weight off of your chest. And second, you need to hire. You need to find people that can guide you and basically pull yourself out of this.
Mm.
So over the years, it took time. It was just kind of chunk by chunk that I started paying that off. And I'm really proud because, we're about 7 years in now, and I have grown the firm, to a over 7-figure, company now. So I'm really
Wow.
proud of that.
Oh my goodness, of course, and you should be proud of it. Holy cow.
Thank
In
you.
7 years. I mean, number 1, in 7 years. Number 2, you also mentioned to me you're up to 20 employees at this point. And, just managing a team of that large, I know what that's like. That's insane. And I'm gonna ask you some questions about that down the road in a second. But
Yes.
take us, listen, this is not, from a gossipy drama standpoint, but, there is, I guarantee you, there is someone listening that is also in that situation, which has been using their personal credit card and has to have a hard conversation either with themselves or with a partner or a spouse. And
Sure.
I mean, was it like, okay, your therapist said, I'm going to do it, and you went home and did it? Or did you, like, was it still difficult and you had to round yourself up for it? And
Sure.
was
Yeah.
he helpful and supportive? And like, because I just
Absolutely.
have so much
Absolutely.
empathy for that moment for you. I can't imagine it.
Yes. And, fortunately, I have a spouse who is so supportive. He's
Mm,
always been, my greatest fan. And sure, that conversation was hard, but immediately my husband kind of goes into, okay, how could we fix this? He
well,
wanted to
that's
fix it.
we don't always like when men go into that mode, but when we would like them to, that's good, right?
Right. And at that, I needed a plan. I needed his
Yes.
help at that point. And he was, I'm sure he was angry, a little bit, because it's not like I had deceived him, but I, in my own mind, was building this company, right? And this is what I
Mm,
thought you do. You spend your own money to kind of get a few steps ahead. And
mhm.
that probably was not the right thing to do. And I definitely learned a big lesson. But from then on, it was just kind of like, okay, how do we make this right? How do we get out of this hole? And not only that, how do you become profitable? How do you build a profitable business from here?
Right. Well, and I wanted that. So now that's great because it brought me to where I wanted to take it. Because the truth is, it does take money to make money often,
Sure.
right? It does
Yes.
take investing in our businesses in order to make them successful. So the faux pas, if I put my, characterization on it and you tell me if it was the experience that you had, the faux pas wasn't in being willing to invest in your company out of your own personal funds in order to get your company started. But the faux pas was not really having the plan, that it was just, I'm doing it and I'm not sure if this is good money to spend or bad money to spend. And I'm not tracking whether, if it's creating more money or not. Like it just seemed like you were just
like you said, you're just using your credit card for their purchases. You're not necessarily charging for your time. And I'm not judging, Nicole. We've all been there in our businesses in the beginning, making the mistakes. So, but
Of
would you
course.
agree that it's not the error isn't in investing in your business. The error was in understanding how, when, and where, and the tracking of it?
100%. That's correct.
Okay.
And I had talked to you a little bit about this before when we chatted, but I really started as a content creator on Instagram, and design has always been in my blood. I've always loved to do it. I grew up in a home where my parents made it. We had a very comfortable home, and my mom also had great taste. It was just a place you wanted to be, and I think that's
Mm.
where my love of home stems from. So when my husband and I got married and we started purchasing our own homes, I started showing it on social media. So I might paint a wall or two, I might buy a new piece of furniture, and it was content creation. And that's where I started gaining some traction with followers and things like that, which started to really take off, a couple years later when Pottery Barn picked up our house and they reposted a picture of my living room. So I woke up the next morning to thousands and thousands of new followers. It was back in the day
Like,
when gaining
thank
followers
you.
was very, very easy. So to go back to your question, there really was no plan up front for
Right.
me.
Right.
I like doing it. I like doing it for my friends. And then I started doing it for friends of friends. And the other piece of this is I was too trusting of people. I
Mm.
trusted that my friends or my clients were going to pay the bill on time, or
Mm.
they were going to, yeah, pay me as soon as I asked for money, and that just wasn't the case. So I ended up floating a lot of the money. And sure, they paid me, in time, but it was definitely not the right way to do things.
Right, right. Okay. So I love that. And I tell you, Nicole, you've probably spoken to a lot of your colleagues in the industry. This is not, unique to you. Many, many, many business owners in and out of the design industry have made this similar mistake. And so it's what I love is your ability to come and share that with us, knowing who and what you are today and what you've created. And so to me, I always
Thanks.
make the joke of J Lo, right? It's like, look, she's a gorgeous lady, but she doesn't look like she looks in the magazine. She doesn't. She can't, because we all know what they do. And so
Right.
it's
Appearances can be deceiving, right?
exactly. And it's important for each of us to always know that whatever something looks like, it always has, it's a human there. There's real life
Absolutely.
story attached to it, right? With learning lessons and stuff. So, okay.
Absolutely.
So you come into this and, Pottery Barn taps you and you like wake up to tens of thousands of new followers. And then you've got a plan. Your husband is helping you and helping you create a focus plan. And then the therapist also mentions that you need to hire somebody. And who and what did you end up with your first hire?
Yes, and that's a good question because I do think a lot of new designers when they're first starting, they know that they're doing too many things and
Mhm.
they're wearing too many hats and they're dropping balls, but they don't know who that person is that they need to hire. And I
Mhm.
was in that same exact boat. So luckily the timing worked out, and I believe in fate and kismet. And I had a friend, she was a neighbor, and she reached out. She had recently quit her job at Pop Sugar, and she said, I'm looking for something. I could help you. And I said,
Mm.
okay, I don't know what kind of help I need, but let's just get started together and
My
we'll figure
therapist
it
said I
out.
need help.
Exactly. And she came on and we really did figure it out together. And
Mm.
she started taking on a lot of the back end, just from procurement to billing to payroll to invoicing. She did all of those things that I knew was not in my wheelhouse. Those,
Right.
I'm not a numbers person. I know you've said you're not a numbers person either.
Right.
So, I am the visionary, and I
Yeah.
am the person who has, the big plans, the big goals, and the dreams for the company. And it was time for me to find the right people, get them in the right seats so I could really scale this business.
And that is also a very important distinction to make. I mean, you got lucky there, and you said it,
I did.
kismet, right?
Yes.
You got lucky because she could have been another visionary person, and it's like, okay, we don't need two of us here. But
Sure.
when we get along with somebody, and she's seeing what you're creating, and maybe it really could have been another mistake. And I only point that out not because you need the lesson. You now are on your 20th employee. You've learned how to manage and learn and hire and train. But somebody listening, you can't just assume you're going to be lucky like Nicole, because you do, like, what happened for you is it turned out she was that opposite superpower, right? That she likes
Right.
to get in the back end and make things happen. And,
Right.
and that's very critical in like the EOS entrepreneur operating system. They call it the visionary and the integrator. Like, somebody has
Right.
the ideas, somebody makes the ideas like on paper. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Right.
Absolutely.
So, but I love, love, love that the universe gifted you with that first hire with somebody has the opposite skill set. And we've talked about that on the show too. Just like, what are the things you like to do, you don't like to do, you're good at, you're not good at. And if you are looking at your first hire, even if you don't use a professional recruiter and you don't do all the personality assessment profiles, at least make the two lists. And if your two lists are the same, it's not the right
It's not the
person.
right person.
Not for the first
Exactly.
hire, right? Like, not for the
Right.
first hire. You might need that person again as your management team grows, and you need some more people in there that are big thinkers like you, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And then it was, yeah, and then who to hire next, right? So that for me was a technical designer. So I needed someone
Mm.
to come in and do all our AutoCAD and SketchUp. And again, I, got lucky and I had a girl reach out to me on Instagram and she said, this is what I do and I could really come on and help you out. I think at the time I was outsourcing AutoCAD to someone in like Texas. And she said, I'm local. So that was Sarah was my next hire. And Sarah's been with me for 5 years now. And she has recently just been promoted to our design director. She's amazing.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And it's funny because here you are. You said that you don't come from a design background. You come from being an influencer, who has basically a design enthusiast is what it was, right? Like, you admired it, you appreciated it, found out that you had a talent for it. But I remember Darla Powell from Wingnut Social was on the show years ago. And when she opened up, she went from being a sergeant in the Miami-Dade Police Department to being an interior designer.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. She was listening to my podcast and she was just, I remember, I'll never forget getting the email from her. I didn't even know her. I had no idea who she was at the time, but it was in the first week of January. And she said to me, I have been listening to your podcast the last like 8 months or whatever it is. And I never knew that this could be a business. I just turned in my retirement to the Miami-Dade Police. Actually, she just said,
Wow.
I just retired. I didn't find out until I interviewed her that she was a police sergeant. Okay.
That's
And
amazing.
yes, and the thing is, she did the same thing. Her design firm hit the ground running, and I remember when I interviewed her, she said the same thing. She was like, "Look, I have the eye, I know what I like, and
Mhm.
all the things, but hiring the technical, the people to do the CAD drawings and the
Yeah,
renderings and the different things to level up the firm, so that it's almost like bringing your talent and bringing the chops up to the same level, right?"
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit in the beginning I was like, "Oh, I should be able to do this all myself, right? I go back to school to learn this?" But no, find your people.
Right.
There's so many people that could do things so much better and faster than you and stay in your lane. And that lane for
Right.
me was the principal designer and the visionary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's so funny because is there any other like field that like, would a lawyer who is a great trial lawyer? So we've got a woman, she's an amazing trial lawyer. She closes all the cases, she writes tremendous briefs. But by the way, there's bookkeeping that has to be done in a law firm. Does she think to herself, should I go back to school and learn how to, like, do what my paralegal does or my bookkeeper does? No, right? But there's something about the design industry where there's this dual hesitancy to recognize that you don't have to do it all yourself and you can
Mhm.
hire the other superpowers, but B, then the hesitancy to do that, because I think, they think, well, we should do it. Like, I should know how to do CAD and I should know how to do this when it is a technical service that you can pay for, right? Like a
Exactly.
stenographer, right? So a lawyer needs a stenographer, but like, does a lawyer think, oh, I better learn stenography?
No,
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 right?
never,
It's
never.
so funny. It's a
It
thing though,
is.
right? It's a thing in this industry, don't you
It
think?
is. And especially maybe it's when your name is on the door, so you feel
Mm.
that pressure. That might be part of it. And I know, like, I for pretty is so much a piece of me, and it's at my core who I am as a person. I told you, I think most people know me when they recognize me. It's, oh, are you I for pretty more than Nicole Salceda, which is a very interesting thing. Um, so that is me to my core, but then it's also expanding the brand and including my team in the name as well. So I tell people all the time, they say, oh my gosh, I love your work and it's amazing and I hope I could hire you. And I'm always first to give credit to my team and make sure people know that I may be the owner and started the business, but I'm definitely just one piece of the business and I have this entire team behind me.
And that's an interesting thing because I feel like the last several years, the move has been to name the design firm the principal's name. Like that just feels like a
Correct.
trend to me. I more so than when I started the podcast 7 years ago. I feel like 7 years ago, there was much more of a mix of the names of the firms being, whatever name it was versus the principal's name. And it's interesting here you have created this huge brand and you're still recognized as a human connected to a name that's not your own name. So
Right.
you can create a brand without your own name, right?
That is very true. I do see that. And there's been thoughts over the years, do I name it Nicole Salceda Interiors? But like I said, I for Pretty, it's such a brand on its own now. And I like that I am not the only name involved because it truly is so much bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, it kind of gives you some flexibility, right? Like
It
one of the things,
does.
well, I'd be curious the structure of your business. So for instance, one of the things that I do know that some principals are struggling with now because they come up and ask me, they say, how do I handle it when the client wants me to be more
Hmm.
involved on the project throughout the
Hmm.
project than is makes sense for my business? And
Hmm.
there's an answer there, of course, but it also is probably rooted in the name of the firm is Sally Smith Design. So when somebody comes to it, they want Sally Smith, right? And
Hmm.
so do you find, Nicole, I mean, you are so intertwined and known as I for Pretty. So do you find that, or are you, I don't even know the structure at this point. So are you intimately involved with every project throughout, or do you have, um, your different, Sarah, who you just said is the, design director.
Right.
How do you do it?
So first it starts when someone fills out, an inquiry form on our website. Rochelle is our head of operations, so she always takes the calls and vets the clients. And I know a lot of principal designers do that because they want to be the ones, making the ultimate decision. But for us, Rochelle knows exactly what we're looking for, and we're very clear on those parameters. And Rochelle is very good at vetting them. So if she thinks she has a good candidate, she'll bring it to myself, and then we'll decide if we want to move forward with that client. So I do have Rochelle as our head of operations, and she's fantastic at her job. I we still get people asking, is Nicole going to be there? So,
Mm.
if they have a kickoff meeting or they have a consultation, they'll say, oh, will Nicole be there? And Rochelle's answer is usually she might be there, but you are going to have a senior designer dedicated to your project as well as another designer. So it's usually a team. I usually work with, have two designers on each job. Do I still oversee everything that goes out of our studio? Absolutely. But I've built so much trust with my team, and we have the same core values. We have the same vision. They know our brand aesthetic. So I know that everything that they start on is going to be under the I for Pretty umbrella. And I take a look at it before it goes out.
So that's first of all, a couple things I love in there. Maybe, if you're hiring for just that reason, don't bother, right? Like, right?
Exactly. It does weed
Yes.
out some potential clients.
Right, if that's what's the most important thing to you, then you're probably not a good fit for us because that's not how
Right.
you've set your firm up, that you're gonna be involved in all the different meetings.
Correct.
So now, what is your internal, meeting structure or mechanisms, Nicole? I get it. Look, you have grown people working for you that know that, like you said, the aesthetic and the mission and the values of your
Right.
company and what you stand for and all the things. I get that. But
Hmm.
it still is your name, right? It still is,
Right.
it's your company, right? It's like that's your
Yeah.
company. And you said I give a look to it. So what is the mechanism and how often are you giving the look to it? How involved are you?
Well, I'm in studio with our designers 2 or 3 days a week. So I split my
Okay.
time between our brick and mortar and in the studio. So I'm definitely in constant contact with them on what projects they're working on. And they're always emailing me like things, can you approve this before it goes out? So I definitely am very involved still in the design aspect. But again, it goes back to that trust factor with them, and
Mm,
usually what they send me is right on track. I might make a
mm,
tweak or two. And then there are definitely projects that I'm super passionate about. And for example, right now we're doing our first custom build with our contractor, with our builder, and I'm the lead on that job because that's
oh.
that's my baby. So there's definitely
Mhm.
certain projects that come to us that I say I want to be super involved in this, and it just depends, you know, how much time I have, what else is going on in the business. I usually only take, a few of those at a time.
Okay. Okay. I mean, look, I remember interviewing both Nate Berkus and Barclay Butera, and it was a very similar answer. There's a lot of autonomy with the design teams, but there are X amount of projects per year that each, at least at the time of interviewing each of them, their lives have both,
Right.
evolved and changed since then, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But at the time of interview, that each stay kept that, look, this project I'm
Yes.
going to run, this project I'm going to be more involved in. And so, but it does come from hiring and onboarding and probably, lots of ongoing training as far as making sure that, the people that are representing you are actually representing you, right?
Exactly. And that has been something that I have been focused on for years now is finding my people, right? And those that buy into my core values, and creating a company that is inclusive and the culture feels good. And you know, I I never wanted to be a business where people they feel like they're punching a clock.
Mm,
That's just not us. It's a very boutique firm. It has a small family feel, and everyone that works there enjoys going to their job. And
mm,
I tell my team all the time, I say, I just want you to be happy. I mean, I want you to love your job. I want you to be good at your job. But if this is not the right path for you and you don't see I for pretty, staying here, or you have your own dreams, go out and do those. I wish you the best of luck. I can't expect everyone to stay with me forever, and and they know that. So I think we're in such a good space with the current team that I have at the design studio and the shop.
mm. And it's funny because I recently had a conversation with one of my chairman of the boards about that, about people will move on. And it's okay. And
Right.
sometimes people move on when you don't think you're ready for them to move on. And that's a little bit more of
Sure.
a stomach punch, right?
Yeah.
But other times people move on and you're like a minute later, like, oh, this is so much better now without them here, right? Like when you're in, I'll speak for me in the beginning of learning this very nuanced skill set of hiring. You know, you make a like you're 7 years in this and you have a great team, so I don't think you struggled with it as much as maybe we did. But,
Maybe.
like, I just feel like when you really do get what your core values are and you really do understand what it is, it does make it easier to hire the right people, but people change and evolve. And there is a
It's
point
true.
when you find that somebody doesn't fit anymore, but you
Right.
want them to fit. And you have to just be willing to say they don't fit any longer, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's a hard conversation sometimes, but like you said, at the end of the day, it's probably for the best, you know. No one,
Mhm.
it's not doing anyone any good to stick around in a place where you have one foot in the door, one foot out. And I've had that before too, and that's why I say, you know, let go gracefully. It might
Mhm.
hurt in the moment, but in the end, it's going to be better for everyone.
Mhm. Mhm. So talk to me a little bit. So you've got the brick and mortar store and then this, powerhouse luxury design firm. What the brick and mortar store opened when, Nicole?
In May 2022.
Okay, so
So last
it's
year.
almost a year, yes.
Yep.
And what was the motivation for you personally in opening the store? Was it a revenue stream? Was there a passion thing there? Like, what was your? Because that's another thing. Often get designers say to me, "I'm thinking of opening up a store," and I'm like, "Okay, get ready for a whole nother set of books and a whole nother business. Like, what are we doing?" So, why did you do it?
Exactly. So I actually started slowly, which I would highly recommend to anyone thinking about starting or opening up a shop. I started with a pop-up shop in the front of my studio. So we'd be
Hmm.
open once or twice a month. And it stemmed from just people constantly saying, "Oh, I love that vase," or "Where can I get that?" Or, it'd be so nice to be able to shop, what you're installing in your clients' homes. And the bigger piece of that is I was feeling like I was growing really fast. And I think people maybe missed me as the little kind of baby content creator that I started with, where I
Mm.
was telling people, "Oh, go to Target and buy this," or "This is how I put together this shelf with all retail items." And
Oh.
the truth of it is, we could only take a handful of clients these days because, like I said, we are a very boutique firm. Everything is new builds, full remodels, full home furnishings, and I just don't have the bandwidth for smaller projects anymore. And I wanted to connect with people and followers and people who still wanted a little bit of eye for pretty, but were not necessarily a client.
Okay. So it's kind of like why the masses go to Waco, Texas to like Magnolia land, right?
I would
It's like I
never
just want to
compare myself to Joanna Gaines.
oh, you didn't do it. I did it. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing, right? Sometimes we just want to like I remember my one son, he was his first career, he was a celebrity makeup artist. And
Oh
he
my
was
gosh.
yes, and he was he for a while he did all kinds of A-lister celebrities and then he had like a 3-year stint. He was Stacey London's makeup artist on
Wow.
What Not to Wear. Do
Uh-huh.
you remember that show? You guys are
Yes.
all probably too young for that show.
Nope, nope. I
Oh my
remember.
god,
Yep.
right? And he was her personal makeup artist. So they had Carmen D that was the makeup artist on the show, but he was Stacey's makeup artist for several years. And one time Stacey got invited to Oprah. Like, and he's like, Lou, I'm going to Oprah. I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to Oprah? Because I mean, this is going back, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, right? And he's like, Stacey got invited to Oprah. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to Oprah, right? And so he like came back with a mug, an Oprah mug for me. Like, and the thing is like, I love this mug. Like it, and
Oh,
it's
I
what it is. It's
bet.
like you just want that connection to the people that you admire.
Yes,
And it
it's
doesn't
yes.
matter what the connection is. Like I was gonna say I could have ordered the mug online, but probably then I couldn't have. But like,
No,
like I
it's
could
different.
walk into a tchotchke store and get it if it did, but because he
No.
got it from the Oprah set, like at the
Yes.
Harpo Studios,
I love that story.
and so that's what you're saying, right? So like you're at the point where your 250,000 Instagram followers are all not able to be part of Eye for Pretty. They're not able to really say, "Hey, what paint did you use anymore?" You can't
Right.
do that so much when you're designing
Right.
for high net wealth individuals, right?
Right.
And so it's their
Exactly.
way to come in and connect with the brand. I love that.
Exactly. And then the other important piece is that I really wanted to create a space where people came and they felt really welcomed and happy to be
Mm.
in our shop. And we've really trained our team over there to make everyone feel welcome, whether they spend $1 or they spend $1,000 with us. I wanted it to be that cheers feeling where everyone knows your name. That's aging
Mm.
me, LuAnn. Cheers. No.
I'm there right there. I'm like,
Maybe a friend's central perk, but it was important to me to have that community. And we live in a small town, and it certainly has become a destination for people, and that makes me really
mm.
happy.
Well, and the thing is, it's one thing to say to your employees there, hey, whether they spend $1 or 1,000, we treat them the same. But that is ground zero. That must be happening, right? Because the one
Yes.
person that has traveled and made their husband go 3 hours out of the way to go to your shop, and if they're not treated well because, whatever, they're in, crazy, New Jersey clothes and they don't look fancy, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
that's huge. Like that's a huge ding to your reputation. And you'll never know it with your 250,000 followers. You'll never know it. But as a human person, you want the people that go out of their way to come there to know that, like you said, they feel like they're welcome in, right?
Absolutely. That is us to a core. It's that, again, it goes back to kind of my childhood and where I fell in love
Mm,
with home and
mm,
design, is because it's the feeling that you get. And that is I for Pretty in a nutshell, creating beautiful spaces that not only look beautiful, but also feel really good.
mm.
Because home is a feeling to us. And when you walk into our shop or our studio, you feel that. You get the sense of, it's almost like a kind of sigh of relief that you're there, right? It's
Mm.
calming, and it's nice to walk around. It smells good, it's clean, all of the things that people, want to spend time in, and that's really
That's
important to me.
nice.
We also
That's
do a
nice.
lot of philanthropy, so that's important to us. Every month at the shop, we do a give back program. It might be to a local charity, it might be a cause, something that's happening in the world. So that's also, I'm really proud of that.
And what is the mechanism for that? Basically, like you have like a little event and everybody that purchased something that night, a portion of it goes to the
Yep.
organization.
Sometimes we'll do a night, sometimes it's generally been the whole month, which has been
Oh,
really
wow.
amazing. So,
That's nice.
it could be, a percentage of our profit that we'll
Nice.
donate. Or yeah, I'm open. Sometimes one of my employees will come to me and say, like, hey, this is going on. Do you think we could host something? Absolutely. It's really a space to come together and build community.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Now, talk to me a little bit about you. You mentioned to me that you started on Instagram before you said whatever words you used before it was as difficult now, or I don't know what the
Right.
characterization you gave to it, but you're still there and you're, still rocking and rolling and you have a huge following. And you also said to me, Nicole, that you do your own Instagram. Like when and where and how and tell me about in doing it, does that mean that you like somebody is posting and coming up with the things and you're the one answering, or is it you're doing the posting? Like what does that mean? You do your own Instagram?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I feel like I'm just like barely treading water on Instagram. But it's me. All of it's me. And I do all the posts, I do all the reels, I do all the DMs and the comments, and I definitely drop the ball on a lot of it. I don't have a content calendar. It's kind of just what our firm is up to day to day, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of
Yeah.
time. There's often times where I'm really hard on myself because I see other girls doing it so much better than me, and there's so much out there. There's so
Mm.
many new young designers and people that are constantly creating. It's a full-time job, and that's not my full-time job. My full-time job is the design portion.
Right.
So I just do my best, LuAnn, and I'm doing something right. People have stuck around. I definitely lose followers. I don't really pay that much attention to it, but I've also held steady for a long time. And what I attribute that to is my relatability with people and my consistency of just showing up as I am on
Mm.
that platform.
Mm.
And I show tidbits of my life too. For example, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer in 2021, and I went through that journey on Instagram. I had a lot of great suggestions and support from people who had gone through the same. And again, it comes down to building that community, and people always know what they're going to get when they come to our page. And I don't think I could hand that off to someone very easily. There's a lot of things I could outsource and hand off, and this is the one that I've just held on tightly to.
Wow. 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 I mean, it's I have like I don't even know what percentage of followers. I can't do the math in my head. um, but it's, I remember even Shay McGee had said to me years ago that I don't know that she said she comes up with all the posts. I don't
Mm-hmm.
recall that one way. I'm sure at some point she did. There's no question.
Right.
What I don't recall is if at the time I interviewed her, if she was still actually doing the posting. But she did tell me that she was doing all of the communication. And she said basically up until about the first 50 to 75 or 100 comments are her.
Okay.
And then once, if a post gets, 100, 200, 300, like, yeah, okay, like, you're just like, I have to run a business too.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, but I just, the people that I've talked to, Julia Markham, yourself, Shay, that have these, you know, huge Instagrams. I'm also reminded of Demetrius, and his Instagram handle is at home with Savvy. And the thing is, now I'm just looking at his Instagram as we're talking. First of all, when I first met him, he was at 73,000 followers, if I recall correctly. And he said to me when I was interviewing him, say it was January, he said, I started last year with, 6,000 followers. And I was like, wait, so in 9 months, I think he started in like, June. And in 9 months, he was at 73,000 followers. And then the following year, I had him speak at LuAnn Live, the virtual event. And by then he was up to like, I don't know, another 60 or 70,000 followers. Now I just look at him, he's 215,000
Wow.
followers. It's insane.
That's
But I
amazing.
will tell you, he did walk through and he said at that point, a year and a half, 2 years ago, what it was he was spending 2 days a week, like a 6 hour chunk,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
getting up and doing the thing and
Mm-hmm.
doing the shots and, the camera and the posting and all the things.
Oh, I
And
believe it.
so, yeah. And so the thing is, when somebody tells me that and I know I'm not doing that, I'm like, okay, that makes
That
sense.
makes sense.
Like,
Yeah,
you
that
know what
makes
I'm saying? Like,
sense.
that makes sense. I'm not working as hard. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? But
You
like,
just have time, right?
yeah,
It's a
like, so,
lot.
but how are you doing it? And you're saying you don't have it planned out and all the things. That's crazy,
Yeah,
Nicole.
I guess it is if I think about it. I don't pay attention too closely to the numbers anymore, and I say that, but in the next breath, I say it is still really important to hold on to that because obviously I'm doing bigger collaborations and looking to
Mm,
work with brands, and they're looking at your metrics. So I do
hmm
want to hold on to that, but yeah, I definitely set aside time every day to either post stories or a post or a reel. So I definitely do. It's not 6 hours. It's maybe a half an hour, an hour. So
Okay.
I definitely work on it every day. It's part of my
Yeah.
job.
And I think his posts are probably different. When I look at your two feeds, he does a lot of styling, like teaching you how to
Uh
style.
huh.
So it's and it's gorgeous and it's beautiful. And if
Yeah.
anybody in the industry that wants ideas or tips or
Yeah.
design enthusiasts that too. But you're more expressing what's happening in your day and your firm and the different things, right?
Right.
You're not
Right.
setting up a set per se.
No, and that's not to say I will never hire someone, and maybe
Mhm.
eventually I will. It's just not something that right now is at the forefront of, my next
Mhm.
hire.
You
So
It sounds like what you're doing is you're just showing up as you. That's what
I
you're doing. You're just
am.
showing up as you. And
I
and
am.
you said to me that is it all or most of your business is coming from Instagram at this point?
Most of it is coming from Instagram. Of course, we get referrals from
Right.
clients, which are wonderful. But a lot of it is, hey, I found you on Instagram.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I definitely, I do worry about the day when Instagram goes away, because there's always something, right? There's always something new
Mm,
coming out there, which is why, we've been building up our Pinterest. And so I definitely would want to tell designers not to put your eggs all in one basket,
mm.
and definitely diversify with, your
Well, are
marketing
you
and all of
doing
that.
any strategies, Nicole, through your Instagram that get people to your email list?
Oh yeah, we're always directing them there. We're directing them. I am actually hosting a monthly workshop now, so and it's on all different design topics. So it's on Zoom and it's in person at the studio. So we're directing people to that link, and yeah, I'm definitely building my email list and
Yeah.
capturing
Okay.
those potential
Okay.
clients.
Okay. All right. I mean, and honestly, to the point, like 85, well, I mean, if all of your leads are coming, other than referral leads are coming through Instagram, then the high net worth individuals are coming from Instagram as well. So yeah, so
Right.
we do want them on your email list. I mean, that's the
Yes.
thing. As long as the people who
Capture
know
them.
and like and love you, you've got their contact information, yes, you want Instagram to stay, but it can go and you can develop an email campaign. Like you
Sure.
can still talk to them. Well, okay, Instagram blew up, but here I am.
I'll be sad to see those people go, but I
Yeah.
think we'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like I agree with that. We can't put all eggs in one basket, but if you are building your email list from that basket, you don't have all your eggs in that one basket is
That's
really
true.
the clarification on it,
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, if you are getting all your leads, whether it's all from Facebook or all from Instagram or LinkedIn or Pinterest, and you're not building the email list, then you do have all your eggs in one basket
Right.
and you are not
Right.
in a good spot. That's not a good, happy place to
I
be.
remember you had a great podcast with a woman who was talking about knowing when to turn on and off the faucet of leads.
Oh,
Do you remember who that was? And it was such an
um,
interesting podcast, because I thought, yes, like we definitely have got to nail that down if we want to be successful. And I think we have.
was it
So
in
that was
relation
great.
to social media or was it just
It was just in leads
in
in
pipeline
general.
marketing? Oh,
Yes, it
I
was just
think
marketing
I
in
know
general.
who it was. This is where I do this crazy stuff, and people are like, "How do you remember this
I
stuff?"
know.
I
Oh,
and the thing is, I have to say, I think her name is Julie or Julia.
okay.
And
Yeah,
I
it
think
was a
she's
great.
Minnesota. I can
Okay.
picture her beautiful, beautiful um brunette and I'm not going to find it quickly while we're talking, but
No, that's
uh,
fine. It was a
and
great podcast.
yeah, and I'll look it up, but yes, and I think it was her because she was talking about how she was one of the people who talked very clearly and confidently on, hey, if 3 or 4 people come in the pipeline now, I'm just going to say, we're going to vet them, and if they're a good fit, we're literally going to sign them to start in 4 months from now. Great, sign up
Mhm.
and we're going to do your project in March or something, she said.
Right.
Um I know who she is, and it's driving me crazy. It's making me
You'll think
nuts.
of it. You'll think
There's
of it when we get
900
off.
now. There's
Yes,
900 now.
that's so amazing. You'll think of
So,
it.
yeah. So tell us, what is there something that you've got the luxury design clients, you've got the beautiful brick and mortar shop, you've got the robust Instagram following. There's lots of assumptions, that many of your colleagues make about you in the positive, like just, oh my goodness, it must be so great to be her, and it's so this and so that. Is there something that you'd want to share or talk as a not, and I don't mean, no, this is my life is this way, just like, just like the lessons, you're
Yeah.
not, this is your second career. You've got some perspective and some hindsight,
Yes.
tell us something you
Yeah.
want. Yeah.
Well, I would say, and this is nothing new, but it's a lot of hard work.
Mm,
And I'm constantly thinking about what's next in the business, what can I do? What can I do more of? I will say that I have a husband who takes care of our house and is very involved in our kids' lives. And, he's super supportive. So that has been huge. And then it goes back to having a team of managers now that could really manage
mm,
the business without me. And that's been something, just, I would say, in the recent year that I have been it's made me so happy to know that I could step out of the business and the business
Mm,
still runs without me. And that
I
has
love it.
been huge. And it's putting all the pieces into place. Like the pieces of my puzzle are falling into place. And that's not by accident. That's by strategy, hard work, bringing in the right people. And I told you before that I found Danielle Hayden and Kickstart Accounting from one of your podcasts. And
Mm.
before Danielle stepped in, I was one of those people that said, money, I don't know. I'm gonna bury my head in the sand, or I'm gonna, let Carissa deal with it. But it was really empowering to start working with Danielle and figuring out my money mindset and where all of the money is going. It just, it gave me another level of security, like, okay, we're on the right path, we're doing the right things. And not only does she do our profit and loss every month, but she also mentors us on making business decisions. So
Mm.
before I would go and I would say, oh, can we afford the studio? Yeah, it looks like we have enough cash. Like, let's get the studio. And now my decisions on where we're going are very informed by the numbers and by Danielle and her team's mentorship.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It goes back to really to the beginning of the show when your therapist said, get some help, go
Yeah.
find some people to help you. And the help was in a lot of different ways. But
Yeah.
for a lot of us, that financial piece is really I have learned through the conversations and through the chairman of the board program that I've done in coaching, I've learned that once an entrepreneur fully owns their finances, the whole business changes. The whole business
I
changes,
agree.
right?
I agree.
Right? You can have all the talent, all the passion, all the drive, but until you lock that part into place, it's there's a difference. That's all it is. It's not that
It is.
it's not that it's always unsuccessful, but there is a difference in it afterwards, right?
Yeah, you never feel really secure. Like you're always on
Right.
shaky ground and you're making decisions based off of emotion
Mm.
and instead of, facts and the numbers. So that's been really huge for me personally. And yeah, just having, something I do with my own team. A woman asked me, a mentor said, if it's not about the money, what motivates your team to stay and do their best work? And
Mm.
by her asking me that question, it completely flipped my entire mindset on employees and what, employees were there for, because I had always thought my employees were there to collect a paycheck. And while I do feel like I pay very competitively and I want my girls to be paid well, there's so many other things that we do at I for Pretty that promote our employees to stay. And
So
some of
that's a
those,
great thing.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's a great thing because anybody that studies and the employment industry will tell you that the employees do not stay number one reason for pay. That
hmm
is absolutely not a fact. And here's all of us employers thinking that's the fact. So
right,
what are some of the things that you do, Nicole, that really empowers and
yeah,
endears your employees to you?
yeah. Number one, I think the biggest key to our success is flexibility and flexible schedules. 90% of our team are mothers, and it's always been very important to me that family comes first. And as long as they get their work done and they've done a great job, I am not managing their schedules. Do I love having FaceTime with them in the studio a couple times a week? Sure. But, I have kids and I understand how life works, and
Mm,
I always want to them to have their own flexible schedules. So
mm,
that's I think they really, really appreciate that. Something else is, I always want to make sure that they feel valued. And how do I make them feel valued? There's lots of different things I do. And it could be small things like, team lunches, or, we go to Napa for the day and we team build, to recognition. To some of my employees, a job title is very important to them, so they feel valued. And so maybe it's a promotion, and, and not financially, but maybe it's just that their job title changes and they take on more responsibility. So those are some of the things we do. And again, it's just creating like the synergy and the culture in our studio and in our shop that feels good for everyone to be there. I mean, no one wants to go to work and dread going to work. Everyone wants to go to a place that, feels good, and there's food there, and there's coffee, and it's warm. And that's something that's super important to me, is that all of my employees, they come to work, they're happy to be there, and they're performing at their highest selves.
It's incredible that you've accomplished this in 7 years. It really is. From $15K in debt and having to have a really hard conversation to, 7-figure business with 20 employees, a brick and mortar, and such a solid, outlook on being a business leader. It's really, really incredible, Nicole. I mean, it takes some of us 20 years to learn this stuff.
Thank you. That means so much coming from you. I really appreciate that.
Oh my goodness. It's the truth. I thank you so much for being here today. You're such a sweetie. And I really, really enjoyed learning about you and your business. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much, LuAnn. I look forward to our next talk.
It's stories like these that always make me go, wow. Right? It only took 7 years to grow her business to what it is today. 20 employees and 295,000 followers on Instagram, right? And you heard how it started, with debt on her credit card and a hard conversation with her husband. Now, Nicole says that she was lucky. And you know what? That's humble. And I know that it's genuine, that she's genuinely say it. But it's not just luck. And even when it is, or it mostly is, you can't count on luck, right? But you can have a good system for both your hiring process, your onboarding process, so that you can get the team members in place that help you grow your business the way Nicole has, okay? Your employees need to be trained on your procedures and on how they're going to represent your brand, your name. Right? I remember the conversation I had with Fernando Duque of Duke Renders. We talked about the importance of documenting your different processes and the huge difference it makes in the learning experience for your new hires. We'll put the link for this episode in the show notes. It's a great conversation. Now, Nicole also shared with us something that is important to remember, that we don't have to have all the superpowers necessary to run our businesses well, right? Matter of fact, there's very little chance that any one of us is good at everything, okay? As much as we would like to be, and as much as we might have confidence in ourselves, the fact is we're just not. And because of this, there is absolutely nothing wrong with asking for help. You can and should hire or outsource for the things that are not in your superpowers, right? Now, one superpower that Nicole has, though, is social media. I honestly cannot imagine how hard it must be for her to handle all of that on Instagram. She makes the posts, she replies to the DMs, the comments, her stories. My hat is off to you, Nicole, big time. She's very dedicated. She is very single-mindedly focused on the lead gen machine for her business, right? So this isn't like, I have nothing to do, let me be on Instagram. She understands very clearly that this is the lead gen. If Instagram is your lead gen for real, not just I want it to be, then it makes sense to devote daily time to it. Okay. And if you're going to take the time to devote to it, then do it with intention, the way Nicole does, and do it with authenticity, the way Nicole does. Right? So, such a fun conversation. I'm so happy I got to meet you, Nicole. Thank you for sharing your time with us today and your experience and your stories. They always, anytime we see somebody like yourself, where it all just looks like it's simple and easy, it really does help the rest of us realize one day at a time, just keep doing what I'm doing. Right? All right. Thank you, too, for showing up and being here. I appreciate it that you do that. Have a great day. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.